Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very senior and respected IT leader from the US, Mr. Subbu Subramanian. Subbu, welcome to the show.
Very nice to meet you, Ashutosh. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Mr. Subramanian is Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Anchor Packaging. He has been a global CIO and a transformation leader, and he has led various IT teams across various geographies. So let's start talking about the role of the CIO.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in ITC in the early 80s, it was the computer center manager, which evolved into the IT manager, etc. Today, it's become a C-suite role. I'd love to get from your perspective, how has this leadership role transformed and evolved?
Sure. That's a very interesting question because, as you said, the original IT department was created to centralize and minimize costs, right? So that you bring in all the computing capabilities centrally. It was a heavily cost-focused driver. So that's why initially the CIOs were reporting to the CFOs. So that the CIO's primary responsibilities was minimizing the cost and deliver capabilities. But as the technology evolved, the business users got more savvy and started demanding more. And then as the digitalization of the technology started happening, the role of CIO has evolved. So now you started seeing more and more CIOs sharing the role of a title of digital officer as well.
Correct.
And now the shift from reporting to the CFO is moving towards the CEOs also. So for example, I report to the CEO, and part of that, again, the expectations have changed. So it's not only the CIO is expected to manage the IT assets at the optimal cost points, that is always there,
Sure.
but a strategic thinker who can help guide the leadership to enhance the revenues and values.
Wow.
Right. So that is the big change. And again, digitalization is a key to that. And the type of person they look for the CIO role has evolved because of that as well.
Very interesting. And Anchor Packaging is a very large organization. Tell me about the scope of your work you handle in such a large group.
So usually, Ashutosh, I put my scope of work into three categories: what I call run, grow, and innovate.
Okay.
Let me talk a little bit about each of these.
Yeah.
Run is, again, the to me, the table stakes for any IT leader.
Right.
I need to keep custodian of all the technology assets across the corporation. I have to keep the company safe and necessary computing capabilities at the speed of business, right? So that is my entry point. And then once I do that, the big thing is, how do I make the organization do their jobs better, faster, and cheaper? Basically, how do I make the rest of the people in the company to make more efficient and effectively do their functions? So that is the workforce enablement, what process and tools and capabilities I bring to the organization. The ERPs and the Salesforce automation, all those kinds of things come into that category. Then the third thing to me is innovation. How do I evaluate and right size the new ideas, technologies, and capabilities and bring it to the organization? To me, the right sizing is very important because there are a lot of innovation out there. Not all innovations are going to match to your organization, your culture, and your situation. I think the job is to figure out what is appropriate for my organization. What is the how do I right size it for my group? So that is the most important thing. And lastly, I'm part of the leadership, so I'm responsible and accountable for its success and failures.
Correct.
So it is not just IT responsibilities, including defining the cultures and values of the organization. So that's how. So you can you can slot various things under these different categories.
Mhm.
And that's how I approach it. And that's how I function.
Very, very interesting. And in a large group like yours, what do you see the role of artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, blockchains, drones, and so many other new technologies that are coming in?
Yeah, I think let's start with robotics. We are a manufacturing company.
Mm.
So as you have read and heard a lot, labor is a huge problem
Absolutely.
across the board, right? We have more jobs for the past 2 or 3 years. We are not able to find people.
Mhm.
So we have physical capacity to operate and produce more, and the demand is there,
Mm.
but we are not able to meet the demand of our customers
Mm.
because of shortage of labor. So
Mm.
we had to idle some lines because of labor.
Mhm.
So we are continually automating the lines as quickly as possible, right?
Mm.
In the past, we were hesitating because of, is it at the right price point?
Mm.
Do we have the right ROI? Is it cheaper to put more labor or automating the lines, right?
Mm.
But now the equation has changed, so you have to automate the line. So robotics is something, we select automation all the way to full automation is
Mm.
something we're continually looking, and we are heavily investing in those areas.
Okay.
The other area is, we are doing a lot of rapid prototyping and product development. The
Mhm.
demands are changing so fast from our customers.
Mm.
They are all going through the same thing that we are going through.
Mhm.
So how do we stay in sync or collaborate with them? So we are using a lot of 3D printing, other collaboration tools.
Mm. Mm.
To time to market, we are shrinking quite a bit using those technologies. The third thing that you talked about, AI, what I call the intelligent
Yeah.
manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
So we are introducing a lot of what we call machine monitoring,
Mhm.
where we can look at and measure uh, a measurement like OEE, which is
Mhm.
mainstream for manufacturing industries,
Mm.
downtime, cycle times, instantaneously. Yeah, we are calculating them using spreadsheets and other methods and other databases, a little
Mm.
bit. So we are introducing technologies that would provide these instantaneously
Okay.
and give the feedback loop to the workforce itself, so they know they can how to react quickly,
Mm.
so that so minimize all those downtime, etc.
Mm.
So any different areas,
Very
blockchain,
interesting.
electronic contracts is a big thing that's coming
Yeah.
along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Planning and scheduling is extremely important. We can use a lot of AI and machine language to improve the planning and scheduling, because supply chains are changing dramatically.
Absolutely.
So all these are used extensively, but again, varying degrees and scales depending on your situation.
Fantastic. Thank you. A great response. So now let me move to a few more, general questions on technology. And one of the things I've been asking a lot of technology leaders like yourself is about the metaverse.
Mhm.
Every major company seems to be wanting to get their little space on the metaverse. For my viewers and listeners, tell me, what is the metaverse and what are your thoughts on it?
Right. So metaverse is creating a world
Uh-huh.
where the physical constraints are removed to a larger degree,
Mm.
right? Like for example, if I have to create a prototype of my few lines,
Mhm.
right, inside my office,
Mm.
that is going to take a lot of effort, because there are so many nuances in that.
Correct.
If I create that virtually and remove some of those constraints
Mm.
that exist in the physical world, that brings in a lot of opportunities, right?
Mm.
So we are able to, again, I can speak for my
Mhm.
lens, right? There are different industries.
Absolutely.
Pritosh, I heard recently people are using metaverse capabilities to treat chronic pain, for example, like so in that is in a totally different
Sure.
healthcare world, but
Mm.
I'm not close to that. So
Mm.
in our world, we can create what we call digital twin, right?
Mm.
Digital twin, where I can create the operating lines and try to understand the constraints and the issues that we are facing with, and how can we address some of those things.
Mm.
And I also believe in what I call simple innovations, right? You take the concept, right, bring it down to much smaller bite-sized capabilities. Let me give you a couple of examples that is I felt it was pretty impactful.
Mm-hmm.
We just used a technology, the VR or augmented reality technology called real. Basically, it's a glass, right? You wear it's a computer in a glass form. We gave that to some of our maintenance folks and installed a collaboration tool like a Zoom or a Teams. We even installed MS Teams. So the worker, the maintenance worker, can see the machine. So the machine may be supported by people 10,000 miles away. We may have purchased equipment from Europe, for example. So the maintenance person who knows the equipment very well can see the conditions of the equipment sitting 10,000 miles away and give instructions and maps to the person who is looking at the machine. Right. So in the lens, he can see it right in front of his eyes, but this guy is sitting 10,000 miles away. That has impacted our maintenance work significantly, for example.
Yeah, very interesting.
So then another example is in the training and simulations, right? In the training and simulations, as I said, we are bringing lots of people. How do I use a fire extinguisher? Simple thing like fire extinguisher, right? I cannot be buying hundreds and thousands of fire extinguisher. If I create an augmented reality using that, these guys can get a feel for how to handle these equipments. Those are the kinds of usage that these metaverse and the augmented or virtual reality technology brings. It has a lot of potential, and we are in the early stages of that, for sure.
Amazing. And again, as you look at your technology crystal ball and look at what the future is likely to bring, as a senior tech leader in the US, what are some of the technology disruptions that you see in the future?
Sure. There are a lot of them out there. Again, specifically in where I sit and where I see, I should tell you, labor shortage is here to stay. So I have to continually figure out, this is not going to be a 1 year, 2 year problem, in my opinion. So we have to figure out, how do I eliminate labor content as much as possible and remove not only the physical automation of the equipment, even the labor that we have, how do I assign them to more value-added tasks, and remove all the non-value added tasks. Any technology that is going to help is going to be extremely helpful from a manufacturing perspective. And then the second big thing is supply chain. Supply chain problems are not going to go away. In the past few years, everything went global. In the recent past, the supply chains are shifting and pivoting global to local or regional, right? Yeah. There are a lot of switches are happening in that front. You read the news, a lot of companies are trying to figure out how do I shift that to just in time to just in case kind of approach. So any technology that will help me to do that is going to be vastly helpful in the near future. Then the third thing is every workforce is becoming a hybrid work, right? Hybrid work and collaboration work. How do I make it seamless, right? Whether you sit my home office today or my different offices anywhere in the world, how do I make it completely seamless? And how do I make it for the entire workforce and collaborate, whether you are having a coffee chat or a Zoom chat, how do I make it look the same? And the last piece, in my opinion, is ESG. It is a big key ingredient. Any investment, anybody want to invest, people are very concerned about ESG. Are you committing to ESG? How do you help reduce the carbon footprint?
Yeah.
So these are the technologies to me in the short term and the midterm is going to help. In my vantage point, again, I'm a manufacturing person, so these are the areas that are vital to me.
Very interesting. In the last 15 odd minutes that we've been speaking, you mentioned the issue of people twice. And of course, the pandemic seems to have brought in the great resignation and the work from home. So my question to you, Subbu, is what are you seeing as the opportunities the
Yeah.
pandemic has thrown up for businesses like yours?
Yeah. So let me again, tremendously. Pandemic, unfortunately, it has affected so many people. So many people died, but it brought so many opportunities. Like Ashutosh, we are in the food packaging industry, right? So the pandemic, a lot of people started ordering food, take home food. So we have exploded in terms of growth in the last few years.
Correct.
So the whole industry has changed dramatically. For example, one segment of the industry is called QSR, quick service restaurants.
Restaurants, yeah.
Like anything you drive through, all those restaurants fall into that. 2 or 3 years ago, if you wanted to order food, you had to either go inside the restaurant or go to that ordering window, you place the order. In the past 2-3 years, most of them have gone to app-based ordering process.
Yeah.
So in the next 2 or 3 years, it's grown from 0 to 30 to 40% right now, and it's going to go to 80 to 90% in the next 2-3 years. So that that really taken the order taking person out of the equation. Now, if you have the same software across more than one restaurant chain, for example, if you want a bunch of chains, you can get the hybrid work team and take the orders from wherever you sit in, right? This morning, at first order, I take it for Taco Bell. The next order, I can take it for Pizza Hut. The next order, I can take it for another restaurant. You don't have to be in the restaurant. So the restaurants could eventually become only the order delivery place and nothing else. You can take the Apple Pay or other cashless transaction remotely, and you can process the orders, etc. So these kinds of things have dramatically changed how we approach the whole process. And also the last thing is the delivery services has also brought in the micro delivery services, which is going to be a big concept in the coming days. So it has opened up so many opportunities, and companies are pivoting and taking advantage of this significantly.
And I'm assuming when you say micro delivery, you're talking of drones.
Drones can be part of that. Okay. Even the human part of it, right now, if you order food, somebody goes to the restaurant and deliver the food to you. What I mean by micro delivery is if I want to send something from here to my friend's house, somebody can come pick it up from me and give it to that person, right? Not necessarily anything and everything, move the goods. You don't have to depend on something else. Somebody else will do it for you. So that kind of thing, and it's app-based. So everything is going toward.
So, your response actually gives me my next question. And this would probably be a question between the CIO and the chief supply chain officer, because you're in food and because there's micro delivery. Do you see technology impacting supply chains for these micro deliveries, as you call them, from the restaurant to the home, using drones and other forms of robotic vehicles that I keep seeing videos of?
Absolutely. The technology, that's why I said, a lot of companies are realizing that, and they are investing heavily in these kinds of technologies. The drone, there are some physical restrictions right now. They have to go through security and safety and the environment, etc. So they're working through that. Their early tests are pretty good. But again, instead of drones will probably eventually replace human delivery vehicles in the future. But short thereof, these kinds of technologies growing rapidly. And again, if you are not playing in those equations, you will be left behind significantly.
Well said. So I have time for two more questions. My next question is that what do you, Subbu, see as your top two predictions in the digital economy or the tech world?
Yeah. So I think digital currency will evolve soon. Right? The acceptance rate is not very high today. It's more like a people are using it for trading, and but it'll become a common thing if the businesses will accept in the future. I think it's in the nascent stage, in my opinion. It's in the early stages of growth. I think the government the government acceptance has to improve and increase. They have to figure out a way to tax the digital currency. Once they figure that out, I think it will be accepted everywhere. That will result in significant efficiency gains. The blockchains will improve because of that. Once the government starts accepting these kinds of trade movements, in US, we have interstate commerce laws, right? That dictates how the commerce occurs between the states and across the country. I think some amendments will need to happen to that using the digital currency for the interstate commerce. So I think all these things will significantly enhance the digital currency acceptance and evolution. I think that may take some time, but I think as I said, it's in the nascent stages. And again, I'll try the same thing. Companies and players that do not participate in the digital economy and enhance their products and services will be left behind. And some may go out of business in the next 5 to 10 years if you are not part of that journey.
Well said. And my last question to you, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. What would you say, given the fact that, you moved from India as a young, bright engineer, probably, to the US and are now right at the top. What would you say are 3 lessons you would like our viewers and listeners to take away from your amazing journey?
Sure. First and foremost to me is be authentic. Do not try to portray someone or something that you are not. Who you are, right? So to me, that is more important. People see through that. So to me, be authentic. And then the second thing is establishing trust and credibility, right? You build bridges over the lifetime. You build bridges, but it takes only a few minutes, a few seconds to destroy them.
Correct.
So be very careful in walking that bridge, right? So you build the bridge, establish the credibility and trust. And then the last one, I'd say, focus on the process. Do not worry about the outcomes. If you have a good process, and this is almost like a verse from Bhagavad Gita, but focus on the process. And a lot of leaders here, they always harp on that is, if you are very good at defining your process and defining your approach, outcomes will happen. So, and be consistent with that. So to me, if you practice these kinds of things, and it's easier said than done, but if that over the years, that's what I try to do is try to do all these 3 things.
Wonderful. Subbu, on that note, and your 3 amazing pieces of advice: be authentic, establish trust and credibility, and focus on the process, not the outcome. Thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about your amazing journey to the top, about your own 3 pillars of run, grow, innovate. Thank you for talking to me at such length about the digital world and how technology and so many other things are going to be changing over the next 5 to 10 years. And thank you again for talking to me about how you see this whole world of digitization, technology evolving and changing. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. Have a good day. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.